It's back, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Formula E weekend, and although we're returning back to China, it's a brand new location within China. We're not in Beijing this time round. We are going to Sanya, and as you'll see later on in this video, oh my god, what a stunning venue this is going to be for a race. Absolutely juicy, absolutely spicy, which is exactly what we want for an Electric City Street race. Round 6 of Season 5. Can we continue the incredible streak that is different winners from different teams? That is correct. So far this year, we've had 5 different winners. Sam Bird, Jerome D'Ambrosio, Lucas Di Grassi, Eduardo Mortara, Antonio Felix da Costa, all coming from different teams. BMW, Venturi, Audi, Mahindra and Vergne. And you might notice, if you're a Formula E fan, that we are yet to see a Jean-Eric Vergne win, a Pascal Wehrlein win, a Stoffel Van Dorn win, and all of those teams, HWA, Mercedes, Jaguar, they've not won a race either, but Nissan and Techeetah, the two arguably best cars on the grid, haven't even won a race, and that is as well Sebastian Buemi, who's driving Nissan. I want to talk about them a little bit later on, but he, Season 2 champion, has not won a race either. It really is becoming almost a bogey sort of statement to become world champion in Formula E, because after that, especially when you're trying to defend the season afterwards, it comes so difficult. So there's a whole roster of drivers that have the speed but also have the car to win this season, and like I mentioned, we will talk about that a little bit later on. I think there's some really interesting stories up and down the grid going into this particular weekend. But last time out, we like to mention last time out in these little preview shows for the weekend, it was a Sam Bird victory. However, it was stripped away after the race, going to Venturi's Eduardo Mortara. He came out in the press conference at the beginning of this particular weekend and said, realistically, the car doesn't quite have the pace to be challenging the likes of Audi, Mahindra, Vergne, Nissan, Techeetah. But what they have been able to do this year, on many occasions now, is get themselves in the right place at the right time. You look at Mexico, where they ended up getting a 3rd place. Realistically, they shouldn't have been on the podium there either, but because the team was cautious with energy management, they put themselves in that position. And this weekend is a very similar story. If they can, like last time out, put themselves in a place where they're thereabouts, maybe 5th or 6th place, maybe they can pick up some points, because that's exactly what they were able to do in Hong Kong. The two leaders, Andre Lotterer and Sam Bird, scrapping it out. But in the final few laps, Bird rammed into the back of Andre Lotterer, who was arguably a bit too aggressive on the defending. We spoke about it in length on the Formula E Zone podcast and also in my race preview for Hong Kong, that realistically it was not Andre Lotterer's fault. He did, I feel, stick almost in the middle of the road, and there was a slight change of direction, but nothing too much. Bird didn't make much of an attempt to get out of the way because he locked up, couldn't move the car. There was contact. Lotterer's tyre exploded dramatically in those dying couple of laps. Bird obviously inherited the lead and received a 5-second penalty, throwing him down to 6th, making Mortara our race winner. In 2nd was Lucas Di Grassi. Both of those two drivers really had quiet weekends, but were able to stay out of trouble, kept their noses clean into turn 1, were able to stay out of incidents like Pascal Wehrlein and Jerome D'Ambrosio got into. Both of those two were out of the race really early on, hurt both of their championship fights somewhat significantly, but they have been the team, and especially the two drivers, that have been generally quite consistent, especially on Jerome D'Ambrosio's side of things. And after the race, we want to try and move on and stop talking about last week, but we now find ourselves in a position where after this weekend, after round 6, heading to Rome, 11 different drivers could be leading the championship. Now, for this to happen, we do have to have a pretty chaotic race. We have to see some of the drivers lower down in the top 10 pick up a pole position, pick up the fastest lap. But I'll go through the list now. Sam Bird, Jerome D'Ambrosio, Lucas Di Grassi, Eduardo Mortara and Felix da Costa. They're your 5 race winners. They are the top 5 in the championship. But Robin Frange just sits outside of that top 5 in P6. Then in P7 and 8 is Daniel Abt and Mitch Evans in the Jaguar. those two drivers, the only two drivers this season that have picked up points in every single race. Quite inconsistent for those two guys, but putting themselves in a position where actually just 20 points off the championship lead is not a bad effort indeed. Pascal Wehrlein finds himself in 9th, and many people, including myself, still believe he can be in the hunt for the championship. Then in 10th and 11th come the two Techeetah boys, Andre Lotterer and Jean-Eric Vergne. Andre Lotterer on 29 points, Jean-Eric Vergne on 28. And then there's a 10-point gap back to Alexander Sims. But from Vergne upwards, all of them can lead the championship. Buemi down in 13th. Many still feel that he could be within a championship fight. And then looking further down the list, you've got Ollie Rowland, who in the last 2 races, perhaps even 3 races, could have won, but he's only on 6 points so far in the season. Same as Oliver Turvey, only 2 in front of Gary Paffett. You've also got Stoffel Van Dorn, who's only on 3 points, and that was after his pole position last time out. So there's plenty of guys up and down the field who need to start stringing some results together. Nelson Piquet Jr. as well, only on 1 point. He's had a really difficult year, and the only driver to have completed every single race so far this year and to not score points is Tom Dillman. But all 10 teams, or 11 teams, my apologies, 11 teams have scored points so far this year. Dragon are on the least of anyone after last weekend. HWA picking up 7 points, leapfrogging Dragon, leapfrogging Neo. DS Techeetah and Nissan, for me, are the 2 big names, the 2 best cars on the grid, and yet they find themselves in 6th and 8th in the championship. Nissan, as mentioned with both Rowland and Buemi, I actually think they have the best car. In my opinion, the Nissan consistently over the last 4 E-Prix has been the best, and mistakes from the team and from the drivers have put them in a position where they now find themselves very much out of contention. Techeetah also only been on the podium once this year, and that was in the first race of the season where they themselves made a mistake. Both drivers had a drive-through penalty and were lucky to end up 2nd and 3rd, but they did have clearly the best car that weekend. But ever since, they've had issues galore, especially along the side of Jean-Eric Vergne, our reigning world champion. He's really struggled this year, and in the last 3 races, he's had a fat 0 points. Andre Lotterer could have and should have won last time out. He also picked up no points, DNFing late on in the race, so they're another team that need to get a win at some point this season and have the car to do so. They just need to try and get that weekend all together. But my predictions for this weekend is not a Techeetah win, is not a Nissan win, but it's a Pascal Wehrlein win, someone who I also wanted to talk about because he has come into Formula E, proven that even without experience, if you've got natural speed, you can do a job. And he has been incredible. In just 3 races, you could argue 4 races. You could even argue 2 races if you really wanted to, but a 2nd place in his first proper weekend, people were starting to think, Jesus, this guy could fight for it. Gets pole position in Mexico. The team did not manage, well, I was going to blame it on the team there, but the team and Wehrlein, in his defence, or defending manoeuvres, put them in an awkward situation where he ended up miles down the order due to a penalty on a weekend which could have been a race win, and then last time out, crashing out very early on in the race. A difficult weekend, qualifying in the wet didn't help them. I expect him to come back this weekend. He is hungry for that race win. Similarly to Jean-Eric Vergne, who I think is hungry for another podium. He just needs a clean weekend, a consistent weekend. Getting into Superpole will be his first target. And I think Ollie Rowland, who I've put in 3rd for Nissan, over the past few races, he's looked the one for the 2 Nissan boys that looks more likely to be on the podium. But Buemi seems a little bit disgruntled, a little bit inconsistent in his qualifying and race performances. So I see Rowland being that more feisty of the pair and trying to sneak his first Formula E podium, not only for himself, but for the Nissan team. Let me know in the comments below who you think is going to be on the podium this weekend in Sanya. I've got some really exciting things to reveal to you. I was going to say later on this weekend, but it'll be in the next few weekends regarding Formula E and for the rest of the season. So look out for that. Tomorrow will be your race review of Sanya, and then next week you will see the Formula E Zone podcast covering that one. So let me know who your predictions is for the race winner, and if you want, who's going to be on pole position. I also think Pascal Wehrlein will get pole as well. I think he's going to really prove that he deserves a place in Formula E, and he's going to really start putting on a title fight and really trying to show to everyone he can do it this weekend. But thank you for watching. I hope you very much enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.